Hello, welcome to Two Therapists and a Microphone. I am Dr. Harrison Davis.
And I'm Dr. Aisha Dickerson.
Two Therapists and a 7:30 p.m.
So, for those who don't know, we are two licensed psychotherapists with decades of clinical experience. And we want to hear from you. We want to hear about the situations or dilemmas that you're going through. Send us your questions by visiting our website, www, even though my kids tell me we don't have to put all those W's on there, two therapists with an S.com, and click on Ask Two Therapists at the top of the page.
All right, so today we're going to talk about a serious topic, something that I've been hearing quite a bit about. That's bullying. Bullying in the schools. As I discovered, some of the kids are actually video recording some of the
Mm-hmm.
bullying, and there are some social media websites that are dedicated to showing the bullying and the fights. And I was amazed by that, and how the kids were not afraid of any consequences. And bullying has gotten brutal since I was a kid. So today we have a special guest to talk about bullying with us, and it's going to be geared towards the parents. We have Dr. Ken Shell with us. He is an assistant professor of counselor education at Clark Atlanta University and the coordinator for the mental health counseling program. He is a licensed professional counselor in Georgia, certified professional clinical supervisor in Georgia, and a certified alcohol and drug counselor. His current focus is in addictions, anger management, IPV prevention, interpersonal collaboration, and race-related stress. Dr. Shell has worked in many settings, such as a school-based counseling, school counseling, college counseling centers, private counseling practice. He has worked with children, adolescents, and adults. He currently provides counseling through J Branch and Associates. Ken, welcome to the show, and you are muted. There you go.
All right.
Well,
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
my first question is, what don't you do, Ken? I mean, Lord, sounds like
Look, I got two
you do
good
all
role
the
models
things.
here. I got two good role models here. Y'all taught me about the hustle, so I'm trying to keep the hustle up so I can be like you two, the two therapists and a microphone. So I got goals.
Uh, so I'm glad you're here today, Ken, because this is something you have certainly seen, and you've worked with many people with some of these things. And I think back at some issues that I know my daughter had when she changed schools, and in the fourth grade, and she was a new girl in class, and this other girl decided to target her, call her names, and told the other girls not to be her friend. As an
Mhm.
adult, it's so easy for us not to think about the seriousness, with that. But for an 8-year old, that's
Yeah.
the world, out there. And so I remember I wanted to take a certain approach. And Aisha may think about this too, but what I
So
was
let me hear
told,
your approach.
what I was told when I was around that age, and some of the little kid, he was picking on me, and my dad came around the corner, and told me to hit him.
Yeah.
And so I knew if I didn't hit him, I was going to get something at home. And so I hit him, and he stopped messing with me. He stopped picking on me. I didn't have to deal with him anymore. But I didn't want to give my daughter, that kind of
Mhm.
information, or encouragement for violence. And of course, I talked to her to try to help her work through it, but it wasn't easy. What would you have done, Aisha, Dr. Dickinson, with something like that? Because you got two
So
daughters.
right, so the same, and so the same as your father, not the same as you, Harrison. So my daughter, my youngest especially, there was only one time that someone tried to bully her and it didn't even get through the whole day. And it was something similar to all the girls shouldn't talk to her. She
Yep.
told her she couldn't go down the slide and tried to block her from the stairs to get on the slide. My daughter just pushed her down on the ground, called her a name. And, I mean, that was the end of it. I mean, it was a profane word. So even when the school called me, I was like, "Well, what did the other girl do to get called that name?"
Yes.
Let's talk,
Mhm.
and what didn't you all do that got it to that point? And
Yeah.
y'all were
Mhm.
just sitting back, teachers just sitting on the playground, not paying attention, which I get it. It's supposed to be like a break, but
Yeah.
don't come telling me what she did without telling me what the other child did.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
the flip side, my oldest child, when she was, I want to say in first grade, there was a third grader who tried to bully her in after school care. And I
Mm.
spent the whole time after school when she told me about it, teaching her how to punch. We practiced punching the sofa and stomping, how you stomp on someone's foot and push. And the next day, I mean, I got the call from the after school care. Kari did such and such, and she pushed
Okay.
the girl, and the girl pushed her back, and then she punched her, and the girl started crying and went away. The end.
Mhm.
So I'm like your dad still. I mean, we call it old school, but
That's
I
old
mean,
school. Yeah, I mean, I'm
I'm
at
with
that point now. It hasn't happened in a while, but I am at that point,
Mhm.
But the funny thing is, my daughter and the girl became best friends
Oh yeah.
and spent a lot of time together. But my first question for you, Dr. Shell, what is bullying? Help us to understand how can we recognize it, the different forms of it. It doesn't always involve physical contact with somebody, but what is
Right.
bullying?
Right. It doesn't. It really is. It could be like name calling. It could be excluding from the group. We're seeing a lot of like relational aggression now. Oftentimes, the relational aggression is kind of associated with young women and the girls, but it does happen with boys as well. Um, we're seeing a lot of like cyber stuff, especially you're talking about the website. We see a lot Instagram, Twitter,
Mm.
Facebook when the kids were still on Facebook, TikTok. It's like,
Yep.
and so now it's even tougher because sometimes we see it in the schools, we can see it, but a lot of times it's happening on social media. So it's a little harder sometimes to detect. It could be anonymous. I guess the only good thing about cyberbullying is that we also get a record. When somebody sends you something, you can screenshot it, those kind of things.
mhm.
But it really is just that kind of aggression or it is exclusion, making people feel bad, not wanted, name calling, those kind of things. So and we see it a lot in the schools. And some of it, I mean, we kind of think I grew up like you two. My family is like, well, you got to learn how to punch and kick, and but
Yep.
we don't encourage that anymore. Not because it's bad. I think self-defense is always good, but also now it just seems like it escalates so big, and we don't know who has knives or guns,
That's
and
true.
it could
That's
be
true.
dangerous once it escalates so far.
But now the bullies are violent.
Yeah.
They just pop out ready to fight. But what do the bullies get out of it? That's what I want to know. What's motivating that 8-year-old mean girl?
Right. Power, control, self-esteem. Well, we'll call it air quotes self-esteem, but feeling esteem, like I'm an alpha, I'm the top dog. Sometimes it's just recreating what they've seen at home. The way their parents talk to them or the way their siblings talk to them or cousins or so it could just be recreating what they know as well. So it could feel comfortable and familiar to them in this setting as well. So
Well, I will say that one thing I've noticed for sure is that the social media bullying is out of hand. And now let me
yes.
say, Trump was good at that too, that social media bullying. But with my oldest child being in high school, we saw it just maybe a month ago where a child used to be another child's friend, and then she got mad that the girl didn't want to be her friend anymore, and she posted this picture of her. I won't give too many details about the picture, but it was like a 1 second picture that she posted on Instagram and tagged the girl in it. Like, let's say the girl is Jane. She's like, Jane, is this you? And then what happened? Everybody started sharing the photo. And she was supposed to be her friend before. Everyone started sharing the photo. They started calling the girl. And then the next thing you know, there's a fight at school because the girl could not wait to get back to school and jump on her. Now here's another thing. Fight happened, and people are taping that. And the girl who started the fight, from what I saw, it didn't go the way she thought it was going to go. But that just it's like you go in. This is the way I'm going to handle it, and then things end up worse for you than you were expecting. It's just like it's a downhill spiral.
And Aisha just pointed out a new element. Now, when someone's bullied or get into a fight, get beat up, it's video recorded. And it's broadcast, so they are re-traumatized over again. It used to be, I guess, when I was small, if we got into a fight, only the people in the classroom saw it, and it became rumor, in the class. But now there's a documented evidence, and people can make fun of it.
Right.
So it's like it continues to traumatize them a great deal. But tell us, what are some of the effects of bullying on the target, the victim?
Oh yeah, so it could be psychosomatic. Look, we're using the big words. Let me take the big words out. It could be stored in their bodies, so they could lose their appetites. Right? They could be really tense, headaches, dizziness, stomach aches.
That's a
not
lot.
not wanting to go to school anymore, not enjoying the things they used to enjoy. I mean, some of it looks kind of like depression. So,
Yeah.
parents may not know if it's their kids depressed or being bullied. Really not wanting to go to school and not really want to talk to their friends or be seen. They may start isolating. Their hygiene may go awry. It's a whole bunch of things that look similar to some other conditions we may see. So it's really important for parents to really kind of check in with their students, like what's happening, what's going on. I see there's a difference here, and developmentally too, because I'm embarrassed. I'm gonna do a little TMI for a moment. They're gonna back way off, because I know at one point when I was a young boy, I didn't like washing. and I wasn't getting bullied. So, it does take a moment to kind of differentiate, like, is this developmental, but also just checking, like, what's changed with your young one at school? Like, what's different now that I see this behavior's changed? Just kind of give them space to talk about it and figure out what's happening that's a little different in their lives. Because if you're like me, I never wanted to wash and I never wanted to wear deodorant. So, that it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for me to be a little stinky one day. but I get back.
Well, so that gives me a thought and an idea. If your child is being bullied, is it appropriate to find out, I guess, what the bullies are saying and see if it's something that you need to help your child with? Like, if they're saying your child smells bad, do you say, okay, well, let's send you to school, with a little care bag, like most, I know, high school, middle school girls have a little deodorant and a little anything else you might need, some wet wipes or whatever you might need for after gym. Or, if they're talking about your hair, well, let's do some. I never paid attention to how bad your hair was. Let's do something about your hair. Or is that just positively reinforcing the bullying?
I think that's such a good point. I think sometimes kids point out everything, and it could be so brutal.
Yeah, they do.
The young people point out everything. I remember working in school. Let me just say,
there's no inner dialogue.
No inner dialogue, because I was balding and I'm still bald, right? But I remember I had a bald spot, and the kid called me sunroof. But I mean, I deserved it.
And they're so creative.
Right? No filter went there, but I picked on him first. So I got to be honest and be like, I started, and then he finished, and I was like, ooh. But I do think, though, like, sometimes it could be an unaware kind of the social factors that are happening, and so sometimes it could be, oh, you haven't been washing, but as a parent, you're busy, you may be working 2 jobs, you may have a lot of kids, and so you can't keep up with what's happening sometimes. Or they go out and they kind of spray on some cologne, and you're thinking of perfume, and they're like, oh, they washed, and then they get to school, it's kind of worn off. So I don't think it's really positive reinforcing in a way. It's just kind of checking in with your kids, like, what's happening with you. Because I don't want it to be like blaming the victim. Like, you make a good point. Like, it wouldn't be blaming the victim, but it just trying to check in. Like, let's see what's happening with you. Because kids sometimes do pick, instead of asking. They may not say, why do you smell funny today? They may just go in and start jawing, and then everybody's going to pile on. So that is a good way to check in.
So we just got a question online. Someone wants us to touch base on bullying and LGBT issues, and what can educators and families do to help out that particular group. Can you talk to us just a little bit about that?
Yeah, that is very good. It's so funny we're talking about bullying. I always like to disaggregate when I think about it too. Like, I think about like harassing people who are queer, GLBTQIA plus. It's different. It's bullying in the sense, but also it's very aggression. It's very different. It's really oppressive in a way because it's about their identity, or even sometimes it's not even their identity, because sometimes these kids are bullied because people think they may be queer and they're not at all. They just may not be gender conforming in the way they think they should be. But that's hard in the school sometimes, because sadly, all the teachers, all the adults in the building are not comfortable in that space addressing it either. A lot of it has to be helping make sure that the parents can't do all this work. So I know they have a specific question, but I'm going to go big and come back. I always think in my mind, though, that we have to help the adults be comfortable in that space so that they can address it. Because I've seen it so many times. I even worked in a school and had a teacher told a young man to man up because she thought the young man was too soft, too feminine. But that had, it's kind of blaming him for being attacked. And this kid didn't know. He was a young guy. I mean, he didn't know if he was gay or not. Nobody asked. It's just kind of like, well, we're going to
But
assume
he
this would
wasn't
happen.
fitting in with the
Right.
standards of masculinity.
Right. He wasn't fitting with the standards of masculinity. But the big thing is, is going to get help. If the school won't do it, I'd say take it above, go to the principal, go to the counselor, the school counselor, look for advocates in the community. PFLAG is a good organization too. Parents and of people who are queer. It's a big organization that does a lot of advocacy, that helps with resources and also helping to figure out how to advocate in the schools. Because I think sometimes I want to say go to the teacher and go to the school directly, but oftentimes that could be as frustrating for a parent as what's happening to their kid, because the schools are not always responsive. Sadly, there are some that very much are. So I don't want to make it a blanket statement for every school, but that's kind of having to see where the school is, where their head is.
It's hit or miss, and whether or not they're going to
Right.
do something.
Yeah.
I experienced that on my own.
Yeah.
So Ken, what's the worst form of bullying you have observed or heard about?
I had
Worst case scenario.
As a school counselor, and this was before, we have the law in Texas now that, if you're a parent and your kid may be trans, now that's going to be considered child abuse if you're trying to do gender affirming care for your child.
Yep.
We had in here in Metro Atlanta, I had a trans kid. And so what we decided to do as a school counselor at the time, to allow the trans kids, because we didn't want to make it an issue, to use our private bathroom. And we had adults. The other students didn't really bully as much. It was the adults. Like our administrative assistant was like, why does he, and she at this point, but why does he get to use our bathroom? Why does he get to have special privileges? And, always misgendering the student. And so we tried to do workshops, and we tried to be clear about, the students' parents pay taxes just like everybody else, and this is a public school, so we have to make it a safe space for all the students. But it was just rough. Like it was the adults, and it was like trying to come through the adult. But we had a whole kind of administration that wasn't really supportive either. So I was frustrated trying to get help for the student, and eventually the student dropped out, sadly. But we try. We really were trying to do what we could within the framework, but our school wasn't really responsive to, there's certain pockets, and we tried to lean into that. But it was just awful. And I was more so shocked by the professionals in the building than the kids. The kids were very, they crack jokes or whatever, but they were much more flexible and seemingly understanding than the adults, who seem to be much more set in their ways. And they were the ones that were really hard on this young lady. So, and that was just hard, trying to be collegial, but also trying to confront and let them know, like, this is not appropriate behavior. We try to refer to outside resources where we could too, like trans youth and even queer organizations in Atlanta to help support the students so that she wouldn't feel all alone, because she was the only out trans student in our school. And so, but that was the roughest I saw. Like that was one, and the other was a Instagram, Facebook battle again about somebody kissing somebody's boyfriend or trying to date somebody else's boyfriend.
That kiss will always get you.
And that was rough. And that happened too, because there's a big push in the schools now to really address bullying, because we've had a lot of suicide and suicidal ideation from students being bullied. And now we have to take that seriously. And so we were collecting data, we had the screenshots, and we had to sit them all down and have an intervention and actually make a plan. And so if somebody broke the plan, we could actually refer to different levels of discipline, and then maybe go to law enforcement if it got that far again.
So how far is too far? I'm going to let you know where this question is coming from, because I've told a child, and you all know how much I love my children, that, a child said one thing out the way to my child. This is a boy. She barely knew the boy, but I let him know that, let that be your last time. When I heard it, I said, because I'm that mother that will ruin your life before it even gets started.
So you talked to the boy?
I did. I said, I will call the police, get a police report, and file something against you just to start you a whole file with the legal system, just because I can. And that was the end of that. But really, how far is too far? Because it's something I said, but the truth is I would. If you had said one more thing, I'd have just, said it was harassment, Let's go ahead and do a whole restraining order. It cost me what, $99 filing fee or something.
Look at that. You're so bougie. I love that. You're like, it's only $99. I would be like, okay, how am I gonna get this 99? Somebody got to go fund me.
To make a point.
Right.
But also to protect my child, because and to let this child's parents know, if you can't keep your child under control, I'll do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
So Aisha's asking, what's the line for the parents to get involved?
Right.
I think. Right.
Look, I'd be like, well, Dr. Dickinson. Dr. Dickinson. I would think in my mind, like, that was successful. Actually, it worked. But generally we try to work through the channels in the school system where we can. I think what Dr. Dickinson is doing is correct, though. If it didn't work, then I'm going to do some other things. But, trying to document the steps, who's important to be involved in the conversation, what's happened at the school, like letting everybody know so that people could be on the watch. But again, with the caveat that sometimes the schools, they have so many things on their plate sometimes that these things may fall through the cracks. And then extending it outward. But instead of her having to make having to put him on guard, it maybe have been like having law enforcement come talk about these are going to be some consequences if this keeps going. Mm-hmm. The next step. So it still would be the same, like it's a thinly veiled threat, like these are going to be some consequences coming through the pipes, but it keeps Dr. Dickinson from looking like she's the baddie, even though I know she doesn't mind.
Right. Even though, as you know, I don't care anything about that.
No, she does not. But Aisha, I have to defend you on that one, because I understand why you did that. As I took the route of being, the concerned, nice parent, talking to the administrators, and I don't know if they knew how to handle it.
Once if they respond to your email,
it continued, so it's like that route didn't work, and I think the parents, the teachers were actually afraid of the little girl or her mom, or something like that. So I understand why, because I'm at that point. If something like that happens again, I'm ready to go there. Was trying to act like I have a PhD, but
sometimes they make it hard.
They make it hard. They do make it hard.
They do make it hard, but I am from SWATs.
So I'm from Montgomery.
But it sounds like it's a case by case situation.
Yeah, it is, and that really worked for Dr. Dickinson. So I don't mean it like that. It's not always bad. I just think, especially because he did stop. Sometimes though, that just for some reason, some of the young people will escalate anyway. So it may get worse before it gets better. Well, it won't get worse I would say Dr. Dickinson's daughter might have gotten the brunt of it for a moment until Dr. Dickinson kicked in and made good on her promise. But, sometimes it does happen, though, when parents come in, it emboldens the bully sometimes. Sometimes they back down, but sometimes it's like, well, I'm going to show you. And then and then the target gets a moment, and it could be bad for the target for a moment, but then the consequence would have come. I know we know Dr. Dickinson, so I know the consequence would have come. But it might.
That little boy didn't know what was coming.
No.
Well, and the sad part is, once I told my child I'm on the way, it's like my kids know how I am. So like, no. I mean, I told the teacher, but has the teacher done anything? And then no, but and I'm like, child, I'm already walking up to the door right now. But I can see how children who are bullied are also afraid to not just confront the bully, but tell somebody, because they're afraid of how the word will get out that, oh, she called her mama.
Yeah. Or backlash from the bully.
Backlash from the bully. But like that working, I think in tandem, I'm laughing about it, but I think in tandem like that, your intervention plus trying to get the school, if we can get the schools to be responsive when they can be responsive, I think that's a good twofer. Like, well, I got some outside intervention coming that might be illegal if we can't do these things, because we document it in the schools. This is happening in school. I've gone to the counselor, I've gone to the principal, I've gone up to the superintendent, and they still ain't gave me no relief. So here we're going to the legal system next, and here we are. This is what's happening next for.
So what would you suggest, Dr. Shell? I mean, you just mentioned some of them. I've tried one approach. And Aisha, Dr. Dickinson tried a different approach. What do you recommend?
I recommend trying, because the former school counselor, I know though, I always know, like it doesn't always go the way I envisioned it, but I always try to work through the school processes if possible, just so you could document each step of the way, so that you have all the documentation, and then But that sounds so much like legalese when your child is in discomfort and you want to make sure that they're okay. And so, but I always think about like building the case, and like I've got all the documentation all the way. I talked to all these people, we've gotten everybody in, and nothing's happened. Now that I take this next step, y'all know why I did it. Because nobody responded. I didn't get emails. Nobody had this intervention. We didn't have a plan in the school. Nobody would do anything. And so I like to think about that in my head to say, let's do it through the school and try to work the process.
Yeah.
But I also know that if I were on the other side and my kid was still being bullied and the school hadn't done anything, then I would be escalating myself. Like some other things are going to be happening.
So is it okay for me? I'm sorry. Is it okay for me to call the police on the fourth grader who was picking on? I mean, she calls me and tells me what's going on, and she got hit. And this is after I've already talked to the administrators. Would it be okay for me to call the police and tell them my child was assaulted?
Lord,
that's the next step I'm taking.
That's the next step. I understand though, because I think that's real, and I think I would say yes, because if you've done all the steps, you got your documentation, you work through the school, and they're still attacking your child, assaulting your child, which is assault. This is where you see me being a bleeding heart liberal. Though I was like, that poor 4-year-old might be going to prison, gonna have this interaction with the police.
But what about our kids, though?
Right, I know.
I've talked to the mama, and again, you can.
And I talked to the principal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now I have to control your child and you, because every time your child goes to court, now you have to go to court too.
Yes.
Plus your child is a minor, is like you. I mean, your name is. You have a case now too.
Yes.
For not being able to control your child.
For not being able to control your child.
So
I think it's real to talk about those consequences, like to put them out there. Like, I've done these steps. This is gonna be the next steps in the process. And so your kid keeps going, then this is what they're at risk of facing. Because I don't think that's outrageous at all. Because I think the school's supposed to keep your students safe, but if they don't, then I think because people look at you sideways, like you're the parent. Why aren't you doing anything to help make sure your kid's safe? And so I understand that pressure, so I'm feeling you there. But I was like, just work through the system as much as you can.
As much as you can.
As much as you can.
I agree with you. I know we're laughing about it, but when your kid is afraid and someone is putting their hands on them, and then you try to take the diplomatic route, because you believe you're working with adults, and then that doesn't work out, and I've seen those stories on news where the cop comes and arrests, a third grader. I'm like, why would he do that? I get it now.
Yeah.
Because I didn't call the police, but I suggested to the assistant principal that they call the police because my daughter was assaulted. I did do that. Now, he didn't call the police, but I would have freely done it myself. So I get that.
What did he do, Dr. Davis? What did he end up doing? Did they just have another intervention, or what happened?
Yeah, so the girl was gone for a week or so. So of course they didn't tell us, but I believe the girl was suspended, something like that. But I just wanted to stop immediately. Don't hit my daughter. And I talked to you guys once. So we roll up there with Fulton County Police.
Like, don't say nothing. I already told you.
2011 News.
I love that.
So we're go ahead, Ken. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying I think it's great when the parents can talk to each other as well.
Yes.
Like the situation I talked about with my youngest. I ended up talking, they won't give you the other parents' information.
No,
so I just waited until, I knew they did carpool too. So I just stayed nearby and flagged her down and talked to her. And our girls are friends now. But on the flip side, I've seen, like with the child that I talked about with the Instagram post, where her parents sat down with the other child's parents, but then they were gone and the child went right back to, she was actually posting and still talking about the girl on Instagram while she was sitting next to her mom in the principal's office. So, at that point, you gotta
what can you do?
Show them better than you can tell them.
You can show them better than you can tell them. Like gathering all your screenshots and like, she's still doing it. Let's escalate it on up.
Screenshots are important. I believe in communicating in writing. So I can refer back to exactly what I said.
It makes me wonder if the teachers and the administrators are afraid of the unruly kids or their parents. is something I was actually wondering. Can you say anything about that?
You
Dr.
know, I
Shell?
think often the louder parents, that come
Yep.
in and make a lot of, because it's a head, you know how it is. It's just a headache sometimes. Like, oh, here she comes again, or here he comes again. It's just like, what can we do to get?
I felt hit right there. I felt that. Like, that's
No, not
I
you.
feel like
Dr.
that's how my
Dickinson.
kids' school is
Not
about
you,
me.
not
But now
you.
they handle everything because they're like, look, y'all don't want her
Not
mama
you.
coming up here.
Not you. So I don't know if they're afraid or just kind of like, this is another headache. I got all these lesson plans to do. I got these 35 other kids I got to deal with, and now here comes this mama acting up in here. I ain't got time for that. I think they're just stressed out a lot. And it could be some fear, but I think also it's like not feeling comfortable in that world. Like, I mean, all of us probably have had some experience with bullying or bullies and that kind of stuff. And so we probably think we know what it is, but it looks a lot different for these youngsters in social media than, I mean, I guess the teachers who grew up with it may know it, but I haven't been bullied on social media ever yet. So I don't even know how that, and for these people in these youngsters in their developmental space where this is their whole life, right? These friends are like the world to them, and to have this happen where they're getting tagged in pictures and it could be inappropriate or suggestive, and their reputations are in tatters for a while, and for them, especially they're not developed enough to think, well, I'm probably going to live through it and my life will go on. At that point, it's just like, this is the end. I don't see an end. I can't make any healthy decisions about this. So it's important for the parents to and adults where they can, to step in and talk and share. But also for those parents, like the young woman still on Instagram, like her parents really should have been in her Instagram. I mean, I know there's some private. I know.
I monitor social media.
I know you do.
I
mean, I know there's some privacy laws, but really it's important. Like if your kid is on social media as a parent, it's your responsibility to make sure that they're doing things appropriately on the social media. I hate it. I don't want to just put it all on the parents that way, but because they're minors and they're in your house, right? Then that's like, and I don't think it's bad to have your kids passwords to their social media, periodically checking to see what they're posting.
I mean, I'm like, ask.
Yeah, because it's important to know, like, outside of that, for their safety, because there are a lot of people out there who would try to attack the youngsters, who would try to groom them, and so having those conversations about who do you accept as friends on your social media, how do you accept, what information are you putting out there? Are you showing pictures of our house with our address? No, I mean, those are important conversations.
You gotta get in the corner and take your picture, stand outside by the tree.
Yeah. So I would further, my daughter, she only has TikTok, social media. The account is in my name. That is my account.
Instagram.
But the title that shows up is her name. So her little friend, but that's my account. So I have complete control over it. So
we
I'm
have
with
a TikTok account together.
Yes.
It's how I watch all the funny videos too, because I
tell her that's my TikTok. I'm just letting you use it.
Yeah. But I think it's important. I think it's important for parents to do. I mean, I know, like we're talking about cyberbullying, which is major. Is like I think they have to go in and check what their young people are seeing and what they're receiving, because sometimes the young people might not know they're being attacked or is hostile without somebody else. It may get to a point where, if somebody had been looking earlier, they're going to say this is going to turn out poorly, but they didn't know, and then boom, they're in it. And
catch it when it's a spark.
So
Ken, I'm sorry.
Well, one thing I was thinking, you said that when they're going through that, they're not able to see an end, and they don't know that they're going to get through it. And I have to admit that I wonder or worry if they're ever going to get through it or see the end of it either, because the difference in bullying back in our day and today is, with a fight, we could say, remember that time when such and such beat blah, blah, blah down. And today they could be like, remember that? Oh, you don't remember? Here's the video.
Yes, let me show you.
And we have celebrities who've done stuff years ago. Kevin Hart said it was a homophobic comment. He forgot he said it. It was before he was super famous. And now, remember that time Kevin Hart said ABC? Oh, you don't remember? Here it is. So,
you can't escape it.
Can you ever fully escape?
Yeah. Because I just saw, you got me thinking about that too. Like if somebody else who they were dragging up something from about 15 years ago from their social media, and we all change. You're right. It's like I can say now that I'm not the same person I was
Right.
15 years ago for sure. But you're right. It just stays there in perpetuity. And those are those big conversations, I think, for whew, I'm glad I'm not a parent. I'll leave that to y'all. Those big conversations about what are you posting again, and what are you putting out there? Because this is gonna stick with you. And we know, like, I know we're talking about bullying. We'll come back, but like employers are looking at social media now. There've been people like not getting jobs and not getting into college because the college app, the people in the admissions office actually went and looked at their social media and saw them drinking or saw them fighting, and then they had their offers rescinded. So it's like it's real. And it's fun for the youngsters, and they don't think about the decisions that are going to happen 20 or even 5 years later most of the time. But that's where the adults have to help a lot of times.
What's unfortunate, many times that individual did not post the video or the photo. Someone else posted to harm them. So they had some bad intentions with that.
Yes.
So you always have to be, and that's what makes people paranoid, right? You always have to be looking over your shoulder. Because, thinking about the child we talked about before, the girl who had the picture was her friend.
Yes.
Before. You can't even let friends take pictures of you, because when they decide that they're not friends anymore, they would use that.
That is the truth. Look, that's one of the things, some of the advice like the professionals are giving about bullying for young people too. Like, don't give your friends access to your social media. Not your passwords. Don't give them access to your phone. You take your own pictures. And I laugh about this. When I was a school counselor still, I would never have a picture with alcohol, because in Georgia they could fire you, So
holding a cup. Just holding a cup.
I'd always have my hand behind somebody where it was backed up, or I have a picture of the alcohol without me, like out having fun. It'd just be a picture of the alcohol. But I'm an adult, so I knew I could lose my job. The youngsters don't really think like that, so we got to help them. We just got to help them.
It's just ridiculous. Like, don't send naked pictures to your boyfriend. Woo! He might not be your boyfriend in 2 years.
And especially now because of laws. If you send your own picture, you could be locked up for sexually explicit. You can get a charge.
You and everybody
contributing to the delinquency of a minor.
Yes,
I had that conversation with the client. Yep, absolutely. Did something they shouldn't have done. So, but Ken, thank you for joining us tonight with this valuable information. And we've come to the close of today's show. But I want you to just tell us your final thoughts that you have for the parents who may be wondering, or they need to recognize what's going on with their kids who are possibly being bullied. Tell us your final thoughts on that.
I was gonna say, like, parents, please just check in with your kids. Like, especially if you see changes in behavior, again, them not enjoying the things they used to. Some of it could be hormonal because they could be going through their teen years, so that's going to be changed. But just checking in to make sure, and hopefully having a dialogue. And please, if you haven't already, start the dialogue about the social media, and that I'm the parent, so I get to check, or else you don't get to have it. I know that sounds harsh, but we need that, because
that's
again, they need to be able to check and see the messages that are coming to their students before it gets really, really bad. Because a lot of students the parents don't know, and then they're feeling suicidal because people are actually telling them in their DMs, you should die, go kill yourself. Like, that's been real in social media.
Correct.
And if the parents had seen it, they probably could have intervened, but they didn't give themselves access to their kids' social media. So I know their kids, we want them to be young adults, and we want them to say they can manage the world on their own, but they can't yet. And that's what part of us helping to guide them, our village and the parents guiding them. And so please monitor your kids' social media, be a part of that, have those conversations, and also make it a safe space so that your kids are having problems, that the first thing that happens is that you won't take away their social media. It has to be some other kind of dialogue and discussion so that they don't lose their connection to their world, about how this happens. So there could be a safe space for them to say, I'm feeling threatened. And it doesn't mean they have to get rid of it. Let's go through the process of making you safe, and let's work through the process so that we can work through all the officials that can help keep you safe in the situation.
Yeah. So give us some quick examples of the questions that parents can actually ask their kids if they're just wondering, if they see some of those things that you just talked about. Sometimes we need some help with some concrete questions to ask.
I like that. They could, it sounds so simple, but how is this impacting you? Like, how are you feeling when you read this on your message? Or when somebody tagged you in this picture, I would feel upset about this. How are you feeling? You seem like you're just rolling with the punches. You get the sense of where they are with it. You know, even those like what's happening today. I love that Dr. Dickerson actually looks at TikTok with her daughters, you know, but having a moment,
they send me videos all
right?
the time.
Having a moment of just like, let's see what's happening. Would you post? Would you like about it? You know, how are you feeling about, I'm getting a sense of even how much their self-esteem is attached to whether people are liking their pictures or liking their stories or responding to their stories. I laugh about this in my head, thinking about the adults. I so many times I look on social media and adults are like, you know, you keep scrolling by my stuff instead of liking it, but I could see you looked at it. And I was like, this is an adult. So I got to imagine how the kids are like.
They can tell if you look at their page.
If it's like a story or something, you can see if somebody saw
you can
your
see if
story.
somebody looked at it, but they didn't respond.
Right, and I never actually click on who looked at it. Let me see if such and such.
But the kids, you know, some people do, and it's important. And so just getting a sense of like, is it important for you that people like, and let's figure out what that's about. You know, are you feeling not loved, not liked, and how do we replace that kind of sense of you know, like social media is going to be important for a while, but how do I give some real life affirmation for you? What can we do in real life so that you can feel loved and affirmed, even if people aren't liking your story or not liking your posts? But I got to admit, though, I got to say, as a grown man, if I put something up there and I only get like 3 likes, I'm like, what? It's been a whole day. So I can't
take it down. Are you like that?
Right?
One?
So let me take it down while I'm fronting. So I understand that the kids, if they're feeling some kind of way, but
I forget about it.
Right, you forget. I don't be forgetting. I go back and look. I was like, oh, they didn't like this. Let me take this down.
I thought that was funny.
I did. I was like, I put some effort into this.
So, Dr. Dickerson, any final thoughts for our audience?
Yes, I would say for parents, because you know, I imagine there might not be that many teenagers that watch us, but for parents, check after your child who might be the bully. And you know, it's up to you to keep your child under control, because if you don't, you might run up on a parent like me who'll help you do it.
You don't want that.
If you can't parent your child, I'll help the government do it.
Yes, she will. So my final word on that is stay involved in your kids' life. I know all my daughter's friends. I know who they are. I ask her every day, how was school?
Yeah.
What is something good that happened in school? What is something that wasn't so good that happened in school? You know, she tells me she made a new friend or something like that. Keep, like you said, Dr. Shell, keep those lines of communication open. Help them to feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah, because that's most important. They have to be able to share with you if they're feeling bullied. They have to be able to share, because
sometimes they're embarrassed to tell you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Dr. Shell, how can people contact you if they want to continue this conversation with you?
Oh, well, I'm on Twitter at Mr. Ken Shell. So you find me on Twitter at Mr. Ken Shell or eshell@cau.edu. So,
gotcha.
But Twitter is easy. Come to Twitter at Mr. Ken Shell.
Well, thank you for joining us today. And I just want to remind everybody, this is two therapists and a microphone. You've been watching us talking with Dr. Shell about bullying, what every parent should know. You gave us some valuable information, some very good things. I want to remind you guys that we are broadcasting live every Thursday evening at 7:30 p.m. myself and Dr. Aisha Dickerson. So we will see you guys next time.
Like this.